I think episode 5 is a fun episode. It has a lot of jokes, it's very comedic, but as an actual episode of Murder Drones, it's a fundamental failure. Here's why. Let's imagine Murder Drones is a building. Every episode is a pillar, holding the foundation together. Episode 5 is a pile of rubble. Everyone else is pulling their weight, but episode 5 is not. Now, you may be wondering, why? Why is this episode bad? Well, why is it just definitively the worst in your opinion? Let's break down the episode and see what it did good, see what it did bad, and see the really, really ugly parts. Tessa and Sin. End of segment.
Yag, come on now. It's so Yag over. The cliffhanger built anticipation for the next episode in both an unexpected and comedic way. That gave something for the fanbase to theorycraft about in between episodes, and I know that you did not just skip over how great Jay was in this episode. This episode developed her character without Liam retconning her personality and goals by highlighting one of her biggest character traits, which is her overzealous loyalty, which was portrayed negatively in episode 1 and now is reversed to be portrayed positively in episode 5 with how loyal she is to Tessa. This episode developed Jay from being a one-note trope with no redeemable qualities whatsoever to a character who is genuinely loyal and caring to those she cares about, while still having character flaws, making her into a multifaceted character. Episode 5 both believably humanized Jay while at the same time staying true to her cold-hearted sadistic nature, and most importantly gave our girl some much needed screen time, if not the most she has ever had in an episode. Also, she had the chain chomp scene, which was amazing.
Fine, Vanity has a point. This is easily one of Jay's best episodes, if not the best. As I said earlier, Tessa and Sin, yeah, they also carried this episode. This episode did have some funny jokes. The Jay kill yourself joke is without doubt the best one. The B plot was the only part of this episode that I could actually, watch. This is also the only time we see Earth, so it does make the reveal next episode have a lot more impact. The setting is one of the best things about the episode. Elliot Manor is beautiful, and honestly, the aesthetic is just really nice. A change of setting definitely was needed. We were on Copper 9 for 4 episodes, so going to Earth? Yeah, that was pretty cool. Now, the only reason I see people actually liking this episode is because of one sole reason. That reason is the lore. Admittedly, I don't like the lore that much, mostly because I'm just trying to actually watch a good story, but I think the lore is pretty cool. However, when the lore is literally forced on you and you can't do anything about it, it's kind of bad. A good example of this is the beginning of the episode. Now, if you don't like lore, then this segment gives you nothing of value. It goes on for a solid 40 seconds. That's a pretty good chunk of the episode just gone. I also think the basement scene is undeniably one of the best scenes in the episode. Mostly because V actually spoke, but I digress. I also think it's pretty cool that the intro is different for this episode. It gives it a few more brownie points, so we'll take it. Well, that's basically everything good about this episode. Let's go on to the bad stuff now, shall we? Let's quickly get this out the way. The comedy in this episode is pure garbage. A lot of the jokes in this episode are really, really bad. They remove all the tension in a scene and we just cut away. Here, let's see some of the best moments.
The key.
Jay has it. What a bounding hop to ruffle!
Jump scare. Grab.
Dark X Wolf 17! No!
Oh. So... that's a pretty metal origin story.
Not dealing with this great, to be immediately honest. Okay, it's gone.
Let's go.
To put it simply, if the episode is not taking itself seriously, why would we take it seriously? This episode has 2 action scenes, the fight between V and J, and the Gala Massacre. And, they would be very cool to see if we actually saw them. Lord Frumplebucket interrupts the V and J fight, and we cut away from the Gala Massacre to see N in the basement. This is especially bad because V and J desperately needed screen time. By this point, V was only really relevant inside episodes 1 and 4, and J was only relevant inside the pilot. So having a fight between a maid J and a zombie V, yeah, that would have been very cool to see. This episode could have functioned as an episode to actually build up V and N's relationship, which by this point was very lacking. The only development we had was N saying he had a crush on V, but after the pilot episode, it is basically irrelevant. Now, I don't know if this is a fault on the episode or just glitch as a whole, but the teasers, yeah, they don't work. Here's a pretty good example. This entire teaser builds up the zombie drones, and what do they do inside the actual episode? They close a door and they appear for about 3 seconds. That is, not a good payoff. A teaser should actually tease what's in the episode, not, subvert your expectations just to break them. Alright, let's say they made Crozzy just to make merch. That's a pretty smart move, Crozzy's an animal, people like animals. Yeah, that makes sense. But, why would we not have a Sin plush? This is literally her episode. It makes no sense, it doesn't. Sin is way more marketable than just a random crow Uzi. I don't get it. I really don't. And the worst offender, arguably, V. V does the equivalent of nothing this episode. She has about 3 lines.
Golden retrievers have...
Execute.
You little narc! Get out of my head!
And that's her entire script. The only moment she has is in the basement with N, but that moment was pretty short-lived when, the flashback ended. Considering the fact that she dies next episode, it's a horrible, horrible writing decision. She could have had a cool fight with Jay, but no, she got robbed instead. She was handled horribly. There's just no other way to go about it. It's a shame, it really is. She was a pretty good character. One of my favorites, actually. I really hope the finale can salvage this. Anyways, that's the bad stuff out of the way. Time to go on to the ugly. To put it simply, this episode does not contribute much. The episode is very self-contained. It doesn't feel very connected to episode 4. In episode 4, we ended with them on a bus ride, and they just magically go inside the flashback already? It would have been pretty cool to actually see them set this up, but I guess we just gotta advance the plot. Speaking of advancing the plot, this episode does not do that very well. Because this episode was a flashback, the vast majority of it is not relevant. This means that the last minute of the episode is very rushed. The last minute of this episode is pretty controversial. And, yeah, I can see why. At the time, this cliffhanger was a pretty big deal. I would say that it definitely had a good payoff, but being left on this for a couple months? Yeah, that was not good. The cliffhanger itself doesn't even make sense. Uzi, N, and V literally just teleport conveniently. In the literal previous episode, Uzi took a bus to get here, and N and V flew in. They, don't do that here. They just magically spawn in. From a casual viewer's perspective, it's very iffy. From the looks of it, a lot of you guys also seem to not like the episode that much. Maybe the episode's pacing was off. It just didn't hit right. You found the episode boring. I mean, you never know. We all have our own reasons, and that's part of being human. By all means, if you liked the episode, I would genuinely like to know why. This episode isn't like awful. Compared to the rest though, it's definitely the weakest. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I genuinely would like to know. At the end of the day, it's just my opinion. This episode really dropped the ball for me. It's too comedic, it doesn't know what it's doing, and overall, it's just a fundamental failure.